Imagine finishing a long, exhausting day, crawling into your cozy bed, and falling asleep, only to wake up completely wide awake at midnight. In the modern world, you would probably panic, scroll through your phone, and stress about having chronic insomnia. But if you lived a few centuries ago, waking up in the dead of night wasn't a medical problem, it was the absolute norm. For thousands of years, humans didn't sleep in one long, 8-hour block like we do today. Instead, they slept in two distinct shifts every single night, separated by a mysterious, highly productive midnight intermission. Today, we are unlocking the fascinating history of biphasic sleep to discover the strange reason ancient people slept twice, and how a modern invention completely hijacked our biology. The midnight wake-up call. To understand how our ancestors slept, we have to travel back to a world before light bulbs, smartphones, and Netflix. In the medieval era, people would head to bed around 9 or 10 in the evening, just a few hours after the sun went down. They would drift off into what they called their first sleep or dead sleep, which lasted for about 4 hours. Then, right around midnight, a fascinating biological alarm clock went off inside their brains, and the entire town would wake up simultaneously. This wasn't a restless tossing and turning, it was a calm, natural state of alertness. For the next 1 to 2 hours, people were completely awake, conscious, and active in the pitch-black night before heading back down for their second sleep. The golden intermission of creativity. This midnight gap between the first and second sleep wasn't wasted time, it was actually considered the most valuable and magical part of the entire night. Because the brain was waking up straight from deep rest, it was in a highly unique neurological state flooded with prolactin, a hormone that induces deep feelings of peace and creative clarity. Authors would sit by candlelight to write their finest poetry, philosophers would contemplate the mysteries of the universe, and artists would sketch out their best ideas. There was no rush, no daytime chaos, and no noisy traffic outside. It was a silent, peaceful golden hour dedicated entirely to self-reflection and creative focus that modern humans, with their hyper-connected schedules, have completely lost. Midnight gossip and neighborhood chores. If you weren't an artist or a philosopher, the midnight intermission was the ultimate time for casual socializing and domestic multitasking. Since the entire village woke up at the exact same time, people would casually stroll over to their neighbors' houses to chat, exchange local gossip, or share a midnight snack. Farmers would use the cool, quiet hours to do light chores around the house, like mending torn clothes, chopping wood, or checking on their livestock. In a world where daylight hours were strictly packed with exhausting manual labor in the fields, this quiet midnight gap provided a vital social safety valve where families and friends could bond without the heavy pressure of the demanding daytime clock. The sacred hour of deep intimacy. Medical texts and marriage manuals from the Renaissance reveal an even stranger detail about this midnight waking hour. It was considered the absolute best time for intimacy. Doctors at the time heavily advised couples that trying to conceive a child immediately after a long, grueling day of physical labor was a terrible idea because their bodies were simply too exhausted. Instead, they recommended utilizing the midnight intermission. After a refreshing 4 hours of first sleep, couples woke up fully energized, deeply relaxed, and in a state of enhanced hormonal connection. It was the premier time for romance and affection, turning the middle of the night into a sacred space for couples to strengthen their relationships. The forgotten language of bedtime. This two-step sleeping habit was so completely universal that it was woven deeply into the very fabric of human language and literature. If you dive into old historical documents, legal records, and classic books like Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales or the epic poems of Homer, you will find casual references to first sleep and second sleep sprinkled everywhere. Characters wouldn't just say they went to bed, they would explicitly state they woke up after their first sleep to do something. It was as common and ordinary to them as eating lunch or taking a bath is to us. No one ever wrote down why they did it, because to them, it was just the natural way humans had always slept since the dawn of time. The day the light bulb destroyed sleep. So, if sleeping twice was our natural state for millennia, what on earth happened to change it? The culprit is a massive technological revolution. In the late 19th century, Thomas Edison perfected the commercial incandescent light bulb, and cities rapidly began installing bright artificial streetlights. Almost overnight, the dark, terrifying night was completely conquered by technology. Suddenly, factories could run 24/7, shops could stay open late, and people could socialize well past midnight. Artificial light completely fooled our ancient brains into thinking the sun was still up, delaying our natural bedtime by hours. With a much later bedtime and a strict morning work clock, the precious midnight intermission was violently squeezed out of existence. The Industrial Revolution's clockwork prison. The death of biphasic sleep wasn't just an accident. It was heavily enforced by the brutal logic of the Industrial Revolution. As massive steam-powered factories exploded across the globe, corporate owners needed a highly disciplined, predictable workforce that could labor on a strict, synchronized schedule. Waking up in the middle of the night and wandering around for 2 hours simply didn't fit into the efficient, clockwork demands of a modern assembly line. Society actively retrained the human population to condense their sleep into one solid, continuous 8-hour block. If you couldn't sleep through the night without waking up, the newly emerging field of modern psychology labeled you as a defective insomniac who needed medical treatment. The mind-blowing dark room experiment. In the early 1990s, a brilliant psychiatrist named Thomas Weir conducted a groundbreaking experiment to see what happens when you strip away modern technology. He placed a group of volunteers in an environment with zero artificial light, forcing them into 14 hours of darkness every single day for a month, mimicking a natural winter ecosystem. By the fourth week, a mind-blowing biological transformation occurred. Without any external pressure, every single participant naturally reverted back to the exact same biphasic sleep pattern of our ancestors. They slept for 4 hours, woke up for 2 hours of calm consciousness, and slept for another 4 hours. The experiment proved that sleeping twice isn't a weird historical quirk. It is literally hardwired into our human DNA. The myth of the 8-hour block. This history shatters the modern obsession with the perfect, uninterrupted 8-hour sleep block. Millions of people today suffer from a condition called middle-of-the-night insomnia, where they wake up at 2 a.m. and lie in bed feeling intense anxiety, downing sleeping pills just to force themselves back under. But sleep science suggests that this middle-of-the-night awakening isn't a medical failure at all. It's actually your beautifully natural ancestral rhythm trying to reassert itself against a rigid modern world. Your body is simply trying to give you your ancient midnight intermission. By viewing this waking gap as a normal, healthy part of human biology rather than a stressful problem, we can completely eliminate the anxiety that keeps us awake. Hacking your ancient sleep rhythms. While we can't completely abandon our modern jobs and turn off the city power grids, we can use this fascinating historical knowledge to completely transform our health. If you happen to wake up in the middle of the night, stop staring at your phone's stressful blue screen. Instead, embrace the ancient wisdom of the intermission. Get out of bed, sit in a dimly lit room, read a physical book, or write down your thoughts until your body naturally signals that it's ready for its second sleep. By cooperating with your hardwired biology rather than constantly fighting it, you can turn your midnight wakefulness into a peaceful, deeply restorative experience that honors your true human nature. It is absolutely fascinating to realize that the way we sleep today is actually a highly artificial, modern invention forced upon us by light bulbs and factory clocks. Our ancestors knew a beautiful secret, that the night holds a hidden pocket of time designed entirely for creativity, connection, and absolute peace. Waking up in the dark isn't a flaw. It's a timeless human tradition. If this deep dive into the history of sleep blew your mind and made you look at your bedtime routine in a completely new light, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like icon, and drop a comment below sharing